Hello, it's John, Shopkeep Arty. Today, a little bit different. We are journeying over to the other side of the world, near Australia, near New Zealand. Can you guess where it is? Well, it's Tasmania. To be honest with you, I know nothing about Tasmania, and it's been fascinating just to have a conversation with Patty, the professional artist that I'll be introducing in a minute, all about the place. So, in fact, let me say hello to her now. Hi, Patty. How are you?
Hi, nice to meet you, John. It's lovely to be here. I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, and so your history is quite an amazing one, really, because you've not always been an artist. You grew up in the UK, close to London, and you studied medicine, and then at some point you decided to go over to Australia and immigrate, and then New Zealand, and then you joined the Flying Doctors and all this sort of stuff, and then ended up in Tasmania. Maybe you can just fill it in, everybody, about all the reasons why you ended up where you are.
Um, Pure chance, really. I was as you said, I was a doctor in England. I joined the Air Force, which got me into aeromedical work. Then I had the opportunity of joining the Royal Flying Doctors in Australia, which I thought would be a great experience, and I did. And then after that, I popped over to New Zealand, as you do, because the two colleges in England and New Zealand were linked. And then the New Zealand college joined the Australian college. So I had to make a decision whether to come back to the UK or stay in New Zealand. I loved New Zealand. I thought that would be my forever home. And then I went to Australia to get some different experience medically and got married. And that's how I ended up in Australia. But I wasn't in Tasmania, and I really missed the British, it sounds odd, the British climate, the British scenery, the New Zealand climate, the New Zealand scenery. And Tasmania is a sort of a mix of the two.
Yeah, and as I
So
was saying to you, it's never really crossed my personal radar as a place that I would, whenever I'm thinking of going over to the other side of the world, I'm thinking Australia or New Zealand or somewhere like that, but never Tasmania. And looking at the size of Tasmania, is probably, for those that are as unfamiliar with it as I am, it's probably a similar sort of size to Sri Lanka, or if you were to take the Northern Ireland part of Ireland, roughly about the same size as the country of Ireland. So it's a reasonable size, and you've described it, Patty, as something that's a little bit like a cross between the Lake District in the UK. So you've got the mountainous bits, you've got the lush vegetation, but you've also got lovely sandy beaches. So it sounds idyllic.
it is lovely. I think it's lovely.
That's brilliant. How many people do you know roughly the population of Tasmania?
I think the population is around 5 million.
Right. Okay. So a reasonable size. So it sounds lovely. I'm gonna have to put that on my bucket list and come over at some point. So now let's get on to the art. So the art that you do, your style is typically. Would you describe it urban sketching, or would you describe it sort of just pen and wash, or how would you describe your?
Yeah, it is pen and wash, but probably a bit more urban sketching orientated. I mean, that's what really got me into the art was I travel a lot, and one day I was traveling and I used to do a lot of photography, come back with thousands of photos. And then one day we were on a catamaran and somebody got out these pencils and started drawing. And I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Well, I'm drawing a scene because it's much nicer as a memory." And I thought, "Oh, that's cool. I'll have a try of that." And had a go and quite liked it, and thought, "Oh, well, why don't I give this a go, just for my travel, really, and just have one lovely picture from each place I go to." And it went from coloured pencil to Copic markers, but I got far too realistic, and people were saying, "Oh, is that a photo?" And I thought, well, I've just spent hours doing this. No, it isn't a photo. So then I swapped to watercolours because it was easy to travel with.
Okay, yeah. So the ease of doing it, but I love that concept of just journaling your way around as you go and visit different places, and you can. And we did a show quite a few years ago now, where it featured 4 professional artists within the one show, but it was revealing their sketchbooks, and we just had a look at their sketchbooks and different people. So Keiko Tanabe was one, and Vlad Yeliseyev, and Jane Bettridge. There were a few, but it was just lovely how they documented their travels within and in different styles, because it's every sketchbook or journal is totally personal to the artist in the way that they want to. Or you take I mean, there's a journaling artist that we've featured a few times on our channel, John Muir-Laws, and he's written journaling books about, and he kind of annotates them and spots little nuances in animals or vegetation or whatever. Or you can just do a lovely pen and wash landscape, like it sounds like you've done. So I think it's a fascinating thing to do that, and that's obviously, and you've developed your skill, and I would imagine you're quite quick then on doing these urban sketches, would you say?
If I'm doing it on location, then my style probably changes to what I would do if I had a long time. It depends on who I'm with and how much time I've got. So yes, I mean, most of my ones are probably much longer pictures now, but I'll go and sit for a few hours. But if I'm traveling with other friends, obviously they're not going to sit around and wait for me to do that. So then it becomes a very quick, smaller sketch probably.
Okay. Yeah. And you show a lot of your sketches, and we're going to talk about some in a minute. And you've got a lot of them that you show on your Instagram page, which is the Sketching Doc, which I think is a great name for an Instagram account. So I'd recommend, if you're watching this, to check that out. And you've got lots and lots of different urban sketches that you've posted up there. What do you look for when you're traveling around and you think, oh, this is a lovely scene? What are the elements that you look for to make a good urban sketch?
I think it varies a lot. For me, it's buildings a lot, and I like the older architectural sort of buildings, interesting stonework, signs. Probably I've been influenced by other artists, and one of the things they, in my learning, I've been influenced, and one of the things they said and pointed out to me is that the signs vary so much from country to country that it really gives you a feel of which country you're in. For example, if I was doing it here in Tasmania, it'd be beware of kangaroos and wallabies and platypus, So, and whereas England, you might see the badger sign.
Or badger, yeah, exactly.
And the great names, of course, that you have in England, like Lower Slaughter and things, which we don't get here. But then we have the stranger pronunciation names here. So I think signs and buildings, really, because I think the architecture defines a country. You look at a French building, it's so different to a British building, Tudor building, which is very different to the Australian Federation buildings.
Yes, no, I agree. You can almost take on a classic village or town, you can have a look at a photo and you can usually guess roughly what area it is from, what country or hemisphere. The architecture is very, very telling, isn't it? So, and with regards to you in Tasmania, are you in do you live in a populous area, or are you in the hills somewhere, remotely situated?
I'm actually 7 minutes out of the second largest town, which is Launceston. However, everybody here considers 7 minutes out to be in the country, and they ask me if I like country life because it's very rural very quickly. So, we're on a 3-acre block. We have wallabies and echidnas and things in our garden. So if I could have shown you outside, you'd see it's very, it looks rural, but we are literally 7 minutes drive from town.
Yeah, and just to point out to the audience, because it probably looks a little bit dark where Patty is. It's about midnight where Patty is. Because she's on literally the other side of the world. It's sort of early afternoon my time, and she's very kindly agreed to have this conversation at midnight her time. So thank you again for sharing your time with us. So let's have a chat with about some of your art. So you've very kindly pulled out a few things there. So let me just show the overhead, and you've got, now that looks very Venetian. Would I be right?
Yes, yes, it is very Venetian. And I think the pictures I've sort of chosen here tonight show the various influences of probably the four main people who've influenced my art.
Okay.
This one, I would say, is very much influenced by another Australian artist, John Lovett. And yeah, so that's the Venetian one.
Yeah. And I like how you've faded the buildings out on either side, so it's really drawing your focal point and attention to the central building, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And then more recently, this is one that I did on a workshop.
Oh,
and
great.
This was in Portugal. So again, slightly different style influence, probably a little bit more the way I'm going now, with that very slightly whimsical style. But yeah, and that's another one. That was Portugal. This was one I did where I was just trying to see, sometimes like you veer away from complicated scenes when there's a lot of buildings and things, because you think, oh, I don't want to tackle all those buildings in the background. But actually, if you kind of develop a system, it's not so difficult.
Now that looks fairly detailed in the background there with the buildings. How long would something like that take you to complete?
The actual drawing and things doesn't take that long, because although they look detailed, they're actually more suggested than actually really detailed. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, sometimes you can suggest things and the human mind kind of fills in the blanks.
Fills it in, exactly. So that would probably take me a couple of hours, but a lot of it is waiting for the paint to dry and things, So because I work in layers, I tend to do, I'll do a sketch first in pen or Pigma Micron of the basic size and shape of the buildings, getting it on the page where I want it.
Yeah.
Then I'll put in my loose washes. Then I do use Tombows to use some of the shading and some of the windows. Particularly where the black is, you'll see I use a couple of grey markers, and then I go over in the finer detail. And that's probably the stage that takes the longest, is the fine detail. But I think that's when the picture really starts to come alive, at that stage.
Yeah, there's various stages in there with the painting process where things start to pop, as they say. Brilliant. Have you got any other ones that you can share with us?
Which was another bit more simple one, but that I did.
Oh, nice.
Then in Portugal.
And that's you've done a little bit of distorted perspective there, I think, haven't you?
Yes, and that again, that's probably the way I'm going, with a slight distortion of perspective. I have followed a lot of and have done workshops with Ian Fennelly.
Oh, yes, we've hosted him a few times. Yeah.
Yes, and that's probably the style that I would like to do eventually. But I think you draw on so many people. Probably the four biggest influences in my career have been John Lovett, Ian Fennelly, James Richards, and Pat Southern Pierce. And so, depending on which one I put down, that's much more of an Australian scene coming in. So yes, I think eventually I'll have a little bit of each of them in there, and a little bit of my own thing as well. But it does, it's a journey. It does change very much, I think, as you go through and as your skills develop and you discover new media and things.
Yeah.
Initially, I was very much just watercolor, then the paints, then the pigment microns came in, then the Tombos have come in, and occasionally I'll even use pencil and things in there. So it's very mixed media now.
So you're on a voyage of discovery with and developing your
Yes.
urban sketching skills, which is really great. No, that was really fascinating. Thank you, and it's nice that you're sharing it all with us on your Instagram page. And for those watching, if you do want to have a look at some of those inspirations for Patty and have a look at Ian Fennelly, for example, if you head over to our video library and search by artist and click on Ian Fennelly, there's a number of workshops and art classes that you can do with him there. And also let us know if you are interested in doing a art class with Patty, because I've not even asked Patty whether she'd be willing to do it, but I'm sure she would. Would you, Patty? Would you be willing to do an art class on a webinar?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Brilliant. So yeah, let us know in the comments if you want to, if you'd like to do that. And if we get lots of people saying, "Oh yeah, that'd be great," then we'll set one up, and maybe do something a little bit more themed, maybe a little bit Tasmanian, or maybe in that part of the world. Not necessarily Tasmania, but in Australia or New Zealand or something like that. Seeing as Patty knows it so well, because it's good if you are painting something that you feel really knowledgeable about and comfortable about it.
Yes. Yes.
So no, that would be great. If you've got any questions as well, you can make those in the comments, and I'm sure Patty will get back to you. And where are you going with your art, do you think, Patty? Is it something that you're always thinking about as you're walking around a new town, thinking, "Oh yes, I think I'll just sit here and have a coffee and sketch this now"?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I mean, I do travel with my husband, who doesn't sketch, unfortunately, so I can't always sit and sketch, although he's getting very tolerant now. But I'm definitely wandering around going, "Oh, that's a beautiful place to come back to if I've got time," or, that.
I think there's a lovely shop there that you should go and visit while I sit here. And yes,
would you like to go fishing while I go back to that little village? Yes.
No, that's brilliant. Well, now Karen's asked, can I ask what Patty's 2 things she'd always like to take away with her? So I guess when you are traveling, what are the 2 things that you'd always take away with you?
Well, I think for me, because I'm pen and wash, it would have to be my watercolor paints and my if I could only take one, it would be my pigment microns, I think.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I've never quite. I do admire a lot of people who are into their single fountain pen, but it doesn't work for me. I get messy and splodge it everywhere. So.
Yes. I know they can be quite splotchy. Yes, and she said yes, thanks. She always takes too much when she's going off on holiday, which I guess you can fall into that trap a little bit. But yes, if you try and keep it light, I think that's good. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you staying up so late today to have this conversation, Patty. And it's been really nice to just get a little bit of an insight into what's going on the other side of the world. So thank you so much. And I'll let you know if we get lots of feedback. We'll try and set something up. Maybe it'll be a little bit earlier in the day, or maybe it could be first thing in the morning, which might be a bit later for us. So that might work. We did host an artist from New Zealand. This was some years ago. He was an oil painter, John Crump. I don't know whether you've heard of him. No, he paints amazing dramatic seascapes with the seas crashing on the rocks. But that was incredibly. It was quite a late one for me, like very late, but just first thing in the morning for him. And it was just a little. I think I wanted to just prove a point that we could host people in every location all around the world. But after that, I thought, oh God, do I really want to do? Let's maybe get a little bit close to home. But it's been a lovely conversation. I'm happy to do it from time to time. These things. So have a great have a good evening, and
you.
really good talking, and hopefully speak to you very soon.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, and you get a big round of applause. Right. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye,
Thank
Patty.
you.
Bye.